mathematicians. We are going to look at another way to solve systems of equations, this time looking at elimination. Elimination, we are going to get rid of one of the variables. Okay. To do so, we need to find opposites and then make one big addition problem and add the pieces that match. So for instance, if I look at this first example, I want to look for opposites. What variable is opposite? The y's. What do you know when you add these? Make one big addition problem. If I add the y's, what's going to happen? Negative 5 plus 5 will cancel, and that's what we want. So go ahead, we're going to add the pieces that match. So I'm going to add my x's. 3x plus 2x, 5x. These cancel, so they are gone. I don't need to rewrite them. Equals negative 16 plus 31. It's 15. I have eliminated a variable. I now just have 5x equals 15. Solve for x. To get rid of a times 5, divide 5. X equals 3. Find opposites. You need to have an opposite, negative 5 and a positive 5. Add down. You should have eliminated the variable at that point. Solve. The next thing you need to do is you need to take this answer and plug it back in. Now it can go back to the top. It can go back to this one here. Sometimes I think it's easier just to always go back to the top so you have a pattern. So I'm going to now plug this back in for x. So I have 3 times x, or 3 times, what's our x? 3. Finish it off. Minus 5y equals negative 16. So we took our variable that we found, plugged it back into the top, that whole equation. 3 times 3 is 9. And I want to get the variable by itself, so get rid of the 9 first. How do you get rid of a 9? Minus 9. What do I do on one side? Must do to the other. Negative 5y equals 16 negatives and 9 negatives. Negative 25. Last thing you need to do to solve, divide by negative 5, divide by negative 5. Y equals positive 5. So the solution to this system of equations is x is 3, y is 5. If you were to plug x is 3, y is 5 back in, it would work, and it would work here. Nice job. Try this next one on your own. Find opposites, add down, and solve for the variable. Then plug it back in to find the second one. Let's see how you did. Do we have opposites? Yes, which one? The x's are opposites, negative 4 and positive 4. So I'm going to make one big addition problem. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0. They cancel. 3y's minus 5y's, negative 2y. Negative 3 plus 5 is 2. Solve for y you will. Divide by negative 2 on one side. Divide by negative 2 on the other. What did you get for y? Negative 1. We now know what y is. How do we find what x is? Plug it back into the top. So I'll have negative 4 times x plus 3 times, and what am I going to put in place of this y? Negative 1. Finish it off, equals negative 3. 3 times negative 1, negative 3. We need to get x by itself. So what do you do next? Add 3, and what do I do on one side? Do to the other. Negative 4x equals 0. And lastly, divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4. X equals 0. So the solution to these equations, x is 0, y is negative 1. That will work out in both of those. Nice job. For the next two, you have to sometimes make the opposites first. So if I look here, do I have opposites? No, but I'm really close to opposites. Which one is almost opposites? The y's are almost opposites. These two are almost opposites. So I need to make one of those 2's a negative 2. To do that, I'm going to multiply by a negative 1. But if I multiply 1 by negative 1, I need to multiply all 3 of them by a negative 1. So I'm going to make this a negative. So I need to multiply by a negative 1. When I do that, it's going to change the sign of all 3 of these. So 5x will become negative 5x. 2y will become negative 2y. And 6 will become negative 6. So I want to make them opposites. To do so, I need to multiply by a negative. Multiply all 3. The bottom is going to stay the same. So for this one, we had to create opposites. Now do we have opposites? Yes, the y's are opposite, so they will eliminate. Make it one big addition problem. Negative 5x plus 9x. 4x. What did we say happened to our y's? They cancel. Negative 6 plus 22. 16. And what do you do next? Divide by 4. Divide by 4. X equals 4. Multiply by negative 1 to get opposites, add, and solve. Now what do we need to do? Plug it back in to find y. So if I plug it back into the top, I have negative 5 times x. What am I going to put in place of x? 4. And then finish off this equation. Minus 2y equals negative 6. Negative 5 times 4, negative 20. And what are you going to do first to get y by itself? Add 20. What I do on one side? Must do to the other. Negative 2y equals 14. Last step. Divide by negative 2. Divide by negative 2. Y equals negative 7. Create opposites by multiplying by negative 1. Solve for a variable. Plug it back in. Solve for your second. Try this next one on your own. Let's see how you did. Do we have opposites yet? No. But are we really close? Yes. Which variable is really close to being opposites? The b's. How can I make opposites? Multiply the top one by what? Negative 1. If I multiply the top by -1, I have to multiply each piece by -1. So this will become -8b. What's next? Minus 3c equals -11. Does this bottom one change at all? No. Now that I have opposites, what are we going to do? Make one big addition problem. What happens to our b's? They cancel. -8 plus 8 is 0, so they cancel. What do we get for c? -3 plus 7. 4c equals -4. What did you get for c? -1. Now that you know c, how do you find b? Plug it back into the top. -8b minus 3 times c. What do we plug in for c? -1 equals -11. Simplify this. -3 times -1, 3. +3. What did you do next? -3, -3. -8b equals -14. And your last step, divide by -8, divide by -8. b equals +1.75. Create opposites by multiplying everything by -1. Make it one big addition. Solve for a variable. Plug it back in. Solve for your second variable. Nice job today, mathematicians.